we are talking about a future for ASEAN and China's relations with ASEAN. First of all, Mr. Boonpracong, from Thai's perspective, how much hope is there for this so-called ASEAN community? Your judgment.
Well, to a certain extent, within the past 5 years, there's mutual trade benefits between all 10 members have been really, really strong, with the economic growth between 3 to 7%. With the economic community coming up, I think it would get stronger with the big infrastructure plan in Laos, Thailand, in Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, as well as Indonesia. I expect it to be stronger, but I would welcome probably more discussion from the Chinese points of view, which the region want more integration, which is ongoing, and I think there's something we could look forward to.
Well, the community at this moment, Mr. Yang, here in Beijing, has been divided into several steps.
Yep.
About economic community and also security community, as well as cultural interlinks and cultural community about this ASEAN community. Which one do you think might be leading the way? Is economic community now the torch in a way, in hand, so that the other goals can better and sooner come into reality?
Obviously, economic community is not only the leading force, but also the base for the completion of the whole community composed by the three parties you mentioned. And especially right now, all the 10 members of the ASEAN focus on economic unanimously. That provides opportunities not only for internal unity among the 10, but also provide opportunities for broader range of cooperations between the 10 countries members and countries outside the ASEAN, which have a very close ties with ASEAN, like China, Japan, and Korea.
Earlier we heard from our Thai expert, Mr. Boonpracong, talking about China's role in infrastructure and also economic interlink with these countries. How much is China going to play that role in terms of enhancing the building of a community, especially the economic community?
Yeah, it's a very good question, not only for ASEAN, but more importantly for China. I believe China commands a very unique advantages.
What do you mean?
Strengths of capabilities of building infrastructures in that area, and also know-hows, because China has got the longest railway system, highway system, and a lot of dams and other infrastructure constructions. So very advanced experiences, of course, including lessons, because we have a very vast territories. So during the past decades, we have got a lot of experiences, also trained our capabilities.
Right.
So that's the very unique opportunities for ASEAN, and also China commands a bountiful funds and capitals. But ASEAN, a huge market for the development of infrastructure.
Right.
So that will combine together for both of the benefits.
Mr. Boonpracong, do you agree with what Mr. Yang said, especially when you mentioned earlier? I remember very clearly you talk about 4 countries, Laos, Thai, Myanmar, and also Vietnam, these countries building infrastructure in a very intensive way. On the other hand, you also see so-called China's Belt and Road Initiative coming through quite a number of countries in the ASEAN community. How much is that need and demand going to be woven together? Is China the ideal partner over there?
Of course, ASEAN nations have been close to China, and we have done an awful lot of trade for the past 500 years. Since there have been a big Chinese fleet back in Ming Dynasty down south, that with the upcoming of the past 20 years, I think since China opened their country with the world, I think that process accelerated with the as much as 10 million Chinese visitors to Thailand alone. That created people to people, which
Right.
will enhance economic opportunity. And most of the Chinese who have visited from southern part has come to Thailand, has created huge investment in every part of the country. And the high-speed train, which China is a major architect for the region, would be a sparking point. I see nothing but bigger trade integration with China as a major partner.
Really, nothing as obstacle over there? Let me ask you two questions, Mr. Boonpracong, if I can. First of all, what about the interlink among ASEAN countries vis-a-vis ASEAN's necessity to deal with China? Secondly, what about geopolitical problems or challenges, including those territorial disputes that China has with some individual countries among the ASEAN communities? How would these two directions in a way influence the possible partnership, as you just beautifully illustrated, between ASEAN and China? Mr. Boonpracong.
Ever since ASEAN was formed back in the early 60s and 70s, a part of the spirit of ASEAN has been the informal relationship between members whenever there's some type of crisis exists, whether in migration, in the case of United States presence in Vietnam, it was resolved peacefully, diplomatically, and it has survived. With the territorial dispute that the region has, I believe with United States, with the ships in the area recently, the fact is that nothing happened. And I want to emphasize that because of flexibility and there are spirit of compromise, ASEAN would like to be a connecting partner in the talk between China and United States, and to a certain extent that would be, unless it become consensus, if there was some type of declaration, it really never happened. I think Vietnam and Philippines has a different situation with China, but the rest are in wait and see. But we also are more sympathetic to a colonial past. Therefore, we would proceed this carefully, and I believe in the future, ASEAN, United States, and China would hold without the situation has getting any worse. I think the structure is working, and that's what we want to emphasize.
All right. Mr. Yang, your judgment here. Mr. Boonpracong used an interesting phrase, which is connecting partner, describing ASEAN's role as a whole between China and the United States. That's quite fresh in a way. Do you think, though, ASEAN as a whole could play that role? First of all, ASEAN among the members, there are differences, not to even mention territorial disputes among them as well. There are economic, different kind of challenges. We wouldn't mention all of them. So can they work as a community, so-called, of linking, interlinking partner? And secondly, some of the ASEAN members trying to take advantage, at least to some, of the geopolitical differences between China and the United States in the region. And it seems it's making things ever more complicated, as some suggest. What do you think ASEAN as a whole vis-a-vis those individual countries?
Well, as the first question, it's very interesting to hear my Thai partners, colleagues say that from China, even including American points of view, the other part of the picture is for ASEAN, they like to play a role as an interlink partnership. So how about China and the US response? I think love to see. Just take ARF, ASEAN Regional Forum, as an example. Many years ago, I was involved when I was a diplomat, engaged with the United States to talk about setting up the CBM mechanism in East Asia. Then the two big potatoes jointly agree, say, okay, let ASEAN take the lead. So in other words, if China wanted to take the lead, the US will say no. And by the same token, China will say no for the United States. But so how about ASEAN? Both of the two big potentials, yes. So ASEAN Regional Forum, from the title, from the mechanism, ASEAN has been on the driving seat for such a long time. So up to now, ASEAN play a more and more important role, not only between the US and China, but also in the regional multilateral security.
What about individual countries within ASEAN vis-a-vis the ASEAN's overall role as a linking, as Mr. Boonpracong described, the partner?
Also, for China's point of view, we do have some individual disputes with individual members of ASEAN. And we engage with the individual claimants, we have the disputes with them. But meanwhile, we engage ASEAN as a whole simultaneously.
Right.
Just take the South China Sea issue as an example. On one hand, we have been long time insisting on the bilateral negotiations with the related claimants of ASEAN member for the individual disputes. But meanwhile, we have engaged with ASEAN to reach the DOC. And also now we began to engage with ASEAN as a whole to engage with the COC.
COC meaning the Code of Conduct.
Yes,
for the
simply
Code of
because
Conduct in the South China Sea. Let me ask Mr. Boonpracong, just to be fair here, we need to have fair share of time for both sides. Mr. Boonpracong, what do you think, what do you make of the current stage of preparation of that COC? How much do you think that could pave the way for economic interlinking between China and the ASEAN countries? Can the two things go parallel at the same time? Mr. Boonpracong, briefly from you.
It has to be, because we live together. We have to cooperate on the things, our livelihood. When it comes to political disagreement, we're going to have to keep on negotiating. As I emphasized previously, that such